Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Happy you're with us today. Hey, do you got some problems with yellow jackets? Rescue has a product in which can keep you safe on your own property.
During these summer months, you will notice more aggressive yellow jackets flying around. Yellow jackets are looking for your barbecue meats, sweet drinks, and even water sources. You want to keep them at bay with the Rescue Yellow Jacket Traps. Rescue Yellow Jacket Traps are an eco-friendly do-it-yourself option to keep these stinging pests away from you. These traps are a powerful lure for yellow jackets and will not attract beneficial honeybees. All our Rescue products are made in the USA. You can go to rescue.com where to buy Rescue Yellow Jacket Traps and other pest control solutions.
Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
James McCarroll is a Nashville, Tennessee native, currently serves as the pastor of First Baptist Church in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He is an author, music writer, and producer, and entrepreneur. He's also the author of a few books, including #Garden Talks, 50 Lessons for Productive Living. Welcome to the program.
Hey, guys, it's so good to be here.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your day to not only educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country. And we'll just get started with this question right here. You started gardening as a grown adult. How did you get involved? Where was the I need to do this moment in your life?
So it happened actually during the pandemic last year. While I was at home, there's a botanist. So she was saying that I needed some type of hobby because as a pastor, our church was closed and I was pretty much to myself. And so she recommended that I started gardening as a way of kind of putting something else on my plate that would take my mind away from all that was going on during the pandemic.
Now, had you had had you ever grown a thing in your life?
I had two plants which were both on life support on a weekly basis. So they, I watered them so sparingly that by the grace of God alone, they were alive. So that's all. Those are the only two things I'd ever grown in my life.
Well, not to get in a church mode, but there's a lot of correlations between biblical stuff and growing plants.
Yes. So what's interesting is, so biblically in Genesis chapter 2, God places Adam in a garden. And of all of the places he could have placed him, he places him in a garden. And the more I've done research, and the more I've kind of been around gardening, I realize it's because the gardening process, the process of plant growth is really a phenomenal paradigm for growing anything. And for fruitfulness in life, fruitfulness in relationships, fruitfulness in work. And so there's so many principles there that you find with Jesus that many of his parables are connected to, agriculture, connected to that type of environment and those principles there because they have the greatest correlation as it pertains to productivity.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. Now, as a new gardener, what is one of the biggest challenges you faced and how did you overcome it?
One of the biggest challenges was infection. Understanding that the gardening process is not smooth. It's not like you put a seed in the ground, you water that seed, and it just produces. You have to consider all of the other elements that work against the plant being produced in a healthy manner. And so the way I addressed it was a lot of mentoring, a ton of mentoring, really more for the purpose of continuing to keep me encouraged while I was watching things die or watching things turn brown or watching different elements of infection hit the plants. And so what they taught me was this. They taught me that there are going to be some infections you can't get around. Some things are environmental. Some things may happen because there are things in the dirt, but then there are some infections that can be reversed. And the key thing is to remain patient, to remain cognizant of what exactly is going on in the plant. And then finally, to do the homework so that you're not surprised by the infection, but that you're ready for it when it does show up.
So you know what to expect because you've planned ahead, because you've read the couple of chapters before, so you know what to look for or what to expect, so you're not disappointed or overjoyed either way.
Absolutely.
Too overjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, you recently talked about a life lesson by watching ants in your garden. What did you learn from the very productive ants that you were watching? What happened there?
So I'm watching these ants. I actually was mad at the ants because they created anthill in my garden. Like it was a full on anthill. So I actually poured water right down the anthill. It was a very mean thing to do. I know, but what I watched was as I poured the water down. 2 days later, they rebuilt it, and I began to watch these ants, and I began to realize that ants are the silent pollinators. But there were so many principles I learned. Principle number one was you never see an ant stand still. You'll never see an ant stand still. You'll never see an ant that's not moving according to their purpose. They're not sitting back waiting for life to find them. They're aggressive and they're assertive in fulfilling the assignment that's been placed on them. Number two, I began to realize that the more I saw ants move, the ant could go in one direction and have a specific goal in mind, but if that goal was shut down, he would create a new direction to make sure that he still fulfilled his purpose. And it shows us that sometimes our plan A doesn't always work out, and so we have to have enough understanding of purpose within us that even when the job falls through, we don't think that the absence of a job means the absence of purpose. And so we have to understand that just because the job may not work out, that assignment may not work out, it doesn't mean that now we don't have a purpose and a reason for being on this earth. And so when we understand that deeper purpose, then we don't lose as much of our mind, if you will,
Right.
when it doesn't work the way we planned on it working. Then the last principle I saw was, and if you've ever had ants in your house, you know that ants, the reason I kill ants in my home is because ants bring their friends. But the way ants bring their friends is they as you know, they lay pheromones.
Right.
And they lay pheromones because they're thinking about the ants coming. And ants are so big on not only being on not being the only ones who find the what they're looking for, find the treasure, if you will, at the end of the path. They make room for those coming after them. And it just reminded me that whatever we do, wherever we're successful, we have a responsibility to carve a path for those who are coming behind us, to make sure that just as we're successful in the area, they have that same opportunity. So those are some of the lessons that the ants taught me.
Well, and you spoke about you poured water and the ants rebuilt. It's kind of like in life when one door closes, another door will open, and if there's not a door, God will provide you wood to build a door, and then He'll open it and give you another pathway to go down the road that He wants you to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I learned that. I'll share one brief story if it's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
The greatest lesson I learned in the garden was never build it once if you're not willing to build it twice. The first year gardening, a person came and vandalized the garden. They saw that I was on Garden Talks. They found my address, came to my house, and literally vandalized my garden. And I was distraught. I was just frustrated. And I remember calling one of my gardening mentors, and he said, you have to be ready and willing to take a hit. He said, inevitably, when you grow something, whenever you start a garden, something will happen to it, whether it's a storm, whether it's an animal eating it all up, whether it's a hornworm coming in and tearing up all of your crops. He says, if you're going to build it once, be prepared to build it again. And I hope that's a word of encouragement for some who give it their all and they see it all fall through. And you just have to know that if you're going to do it, before you begin the first time, make sure you're ready to not only build, but to rebuild. And you'll find out that sometimes the devastation of the first garden is to teach you lessons to do the second one, even to make the second garden even greater than the first one was.
That's a very good lesson to learn, and I think it applies to many, if not all, aspects of a lot of things in life. So we are talking with Pastor James McCarroll, and he is an author and a pastor. And your book, Garden Talks, has a lot of great information. Please tell our listeners what to expect and something that would intrigue them to pick up a copy.
Listen, Garden Talks takes the garden and uses it in a way that very few people have seen a garden used. It has three different purposes. One is to show you just the life of an amateur gardener. I'm so green at this, and it allows you to see a very real time uh, space that existed in my first year of gardening. So I get to show you that it's not going to be perfect. You're going to make some mistakes, and it gives you the freedom to be able to start it knowing that it's not going to be ideal on the first go around. The second thing it does is it gives you these lessons. It gives you these simple gardening principles, but every principle in the garden is tied to a principle in life. And it allows you to see life, see a garden through a lens that you probably have never seen it before, but it truly will allow the garden to speak directly to you. And it will allow you to have some introspective spaces that will give you what you need to really reconsider how to become more productive in your life. Then the last thing it does is this, is every garden talk closes with prayer. Because here's the thing, you can learn it, you can reflect on it, but there has to be some element where you confess it, where you speak it out of your mouth, so that any ungodly or any unhealthy belief systems you have that may be working against your productivity, you at least have a statement that you can make that works toward your productivity. And so the purpose of the book is simply to give you very basic principles that have very profound results. And we're hearing more and more success stories come from this book than any other book I've written. And I want to encourage you to get a copy. Trust me, it will change your life. It will truly bless you.
Now, last year was your first year gardening. This year's your second year. Has things been better or worse for you this year, knowing what you've learned from last year?
It has been absolutely better. Absolutely better. I have seen harvest at levels I've never imagined, harvested crops. Uh, but even greater than that, I've seen it's been better because now I don't garden by myself. Last year I started it, but hundreds of people are literally gardening now because of Garden Talks last year. And so what makes it greater is that now more mouths are fed from organic gardens. And so not only my garden, but the extension of the Garden Talks community's gardens has just been a blessing. So that makes it all the more better.
Well, and,
Yes,
and you know just as well as we know, nothing easy comes in life. You got to work for everything, and you should be happy and thankful for everything you get. A lot of people think everything should be handed to them with no work or no effort put into it.
absolutely. Absolutely. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Well,
It.
go ahead.
I would say gardening teaches you that there is no shortcut, even if you use Miracle Grow. There's still no shortcut. You got to do the work.
Well, James, we greatly appreciate the time you've given us. How can people find more about you and purchase your book?
They can go on jamesmccarroll.org. That's JamesMcCarroll.org. They can go there, or if they want to quickly purchase it, if they're on Amazon.com, they can put that same name in on Amazon.com, and the book will come up, and you can purchase it there as well.
Well, James, it's been a true honor to have you on. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, not only enlightening and educating Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity. Bless you.
Hey there, gardeners. Thanks for checking out this segment of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. If you like what you've seen, you can search through the channel and find full in-studio videos of the entire show. If you want to go another route, you can search for it on your favorite podcast platform by searching the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show or the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show, and you can download it and take it with you. You can check out all past seasons at our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, under the radio tabs at the top of the page. We thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned and enjoyed the show, the segment, and we'll see you next time.